Okay, good morning. It's Saturday once again. It's pretty cold here in southern Idaho. Can't really see through the dirty window, but it snowed last night, and we got about a 20-mile-an-hour wind, and it's really cold. So I'm in here in front of the fire, trying to stay warm. What I got on tap for today is we're gonna try and get all of the Planet Junior BP-1 stuff sandblasted and prepped for paint. Probably going to take some measurements too, because I know some of these bushings are worn out. I took these guys into work yesterday and soaked them in the solvent tank because I don't have one here yet. But things looked pretty good. The hubs do have some wear. I'm in the process of figuring out how I can fix these. I think I've got some ideas. I got a spare set of hubs and off of an axle that I was given over here. So if I mess one set up, I'm not going to be too terribly mad, but I'm going to try and figure out how to fix these, because I know a lot of us have problems with these. When they get worn out, you know, there's the part sources are starting to dry up. So if I can figure out how to either refurbish these or rebuild them, I think that would be awesome for us as farmers and gardeners to be able to have ready access to remanufactured parts. So that's in the works. Other than that, everything turned out pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, this is the bushing that nobody can get. It comes out of let me see if I can find it here. It comes out of the bottom frame where the axle goes through. There's one on each end. I looked in the McMaster car catalog. You cannot buy these. They don't have a shaft size and a housing size that will work. So I'm actually in the works today, hopefully. I'm going to go look at a lathe in a town close to where I live. I'm actually waiting on the guy to call me this morning to make an appointment to go look at it this evening. So with any luck, the lathe will be in good shape, and we'll be able to tool up and start building these. I know a lot of you have discussed the need for them. You know, there's just kind of a limited supply of, you know, good ones left in tractors out there. So if I can build these and do it at a reasonable rate, I'm going to give it a go, because I know how frustrating it is when you need parts and you can't get them. So anyways, I'm going to set the camera up here a little bit, and we'll take some measurements real quick and kind of figure out what needs to be replaced, what can stay in place, and so on and so forth. So let me get my measuring tools out, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so back, got my tools out. So just a little bit of background about me. I'm a machinist full-time. So I got some tools that probably most people wouldn't have just in their normal home shop. I mean, just depends. So for what I'm going to do today, I'm going to use a set of telescoping gauges and then micrometers. It's kind of my preferred thing. I like them. They're a little bit more accurate than a set of slide calipers. So that's just how I like to do it. So what I did is I wrote down here so I can record my measurements. On the hubs, I'm going to measure the inside bearing, which is the one with the clicker side, then the outside bearing, which is the one where the nut goes. With the two hubs, measure the axle bushings, the left and the right, and the axle shaft in the two spots where it rides. Same with up here for the axle, and then the pulley bushings and the pulley shaft itself. Mainly what I'm looking for is just excessive wear. I'm most likely going to find that on these bronze bushings. Probably not going to find it on the shafts. The shafts, you know, they're pretty clean. They've been polished a little bit. I mean, there's a little bit of wear there, but not a ton. You know, most of the wear would be seen by the bushings themselves. They're a lot softer than this steel. This is probably I would take a guess, this is probably a 4000 series steel, but that's just me. I would think that they would have used some pretty high quality in their product, kind of like they did for everything else. But anyways, let's dive into this. So it looks like, I'll dig this out. He's been out in the pickup. They're a little cold this morning. So I just usually measure them, even using these like this. I don't use these a whole lot at work, mostly because I have a bore gauge there that I use. A lot of the stuff that we do involves high precision bearing fits and the like, and so telescoping gauges aren't exactly what I would say are common. Okay, well, I need my little one. I was thinking I was going to need the 1 to 2. I just need the 0 to 1. So a little bit harder to do that when I don't have a shirt on or got a sweater on. So that guy there measures 954 thousandths and looks like 1/10. So tenths really don't matter, honestly, when it comes down to this, but I don't know, my tools measure them, so it's just kind of how I do it. It really doesn't matter. I got to dig out my book to see, I forgot it at work last night when I left, but I have a little book that talks about shaft running fits and clearances, so I need to, we'll look those up and help us kind of determine if things are in usable shape or in not so happy shape. So this guy is 951 and 8/10. So some pretty good wear. I forgot a Sharpie, so scratch that in right there. Okay, this guy. Just repeat the same thing. And what do we got? $957 and 3/10. Okay, and then I'm just going to repeat basically that same measurement style throughout everything here. I'll measure the shafts, same thing, just using a micrometer. Let me get that done and then we'll come back and discuss what I found. Okay, so I got everything measured. I can't say I'm not surprised. Things are pretty worn out. Considering, I think we figured this tractor, the serial number is it's the 155, I think it's the starting numbers. I figured that's early 1948 or something, I can't remember. Anyways, so things are pretty worn out. The shafts seem to have fared pretty well. They're within a couple thousandths, 3 to 4 thousandths of what they measured originally. I found a couple unmolested spots. The axle shaft measures 936, so probably 937.5 was the original spec. The top pulley shaft measures 749 and 7/10, so a 3/4 inch shaft. With that being said, bearings are pretty worn out. I mean, these are the shaft measurements over here. These are the bearing measurements for each side. Let me see here. I did that to make the math kind of easy. But yeah, I mean, shaft here's worn down 3/1000ths, but the bearing is, oh geez, what is that? 15, almost 20 thousandths. So 10 thousandths all the way around if it was floating in the center. So that's a pretty loose running clearance. You know, this is an old tractor. It has seen a lot of use. I mean, I will say whoever had it took good care of it. The bearings don't really appear to be egg-shaped just on visual inspection. I'm sure if I measured them they'd be a little bit, but whoever had it at least greased it. When I had to clean off the top sprocket, the one side here was just packed flat. You couldn't even tell there was anything there. So I mean, I am grateful that they did at least grease it. Sprocket, this top sprocket's in pretty nice shape. I mean, the one side's worn down, but they flipped it. Started to wear down the other side a little bit, but it's not too bad. The bottom sprocket shows some wear. The teeth are getting a little more point to them. But overall, things are pretty decent. Just worn out with old age. But I'm gonna look at I can get the top bushings from McMaster Car. I don't know about the hub bushings, if I can get those. I'll have to do some research tonight when I get home and find out. But I'll get that figured out and get some part numbers written down. We'll do a video about that. I'll get those ordered and get them sitting here so that when we're ready to go back together, we can just install them and keep on a trucking. So I think that's going to do it for this video on measurements. Next installment here, I'm still waiting for the air compressor to build up. We're going to sandblast some parts and get them prepped up for paint. It's too cold to paint here right now. I need to pick an evening when no one else is going to be working out here, so I can paint and keep it warm all night. So anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.